How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me is Leonard. This is a show about wrestling. And this week, as you see in the title, we are doing WWE versus AEW. If you were hoping that this would just be a back and forth debate about which company is better, I'm sorry to disappoint you. That's not what this is. We have a little bit more fun here. You can see those debates on social media whenever you want. But we are going to be doing something a little bit different. But before we get there, as I record this, it was the first Raw I watched, maybe not in its entirety, but like the first Raw I watched in a while last night, specifically because of the fact that Edge was waiting for somebody to challenge him, and everybody was speculating as to who it might be. And so I was like, well, let me check it out just to see who it is, because if it is Cody, that'd be pretty interesting. It was not Cody. It was one of the two people like that were theorized were AJ Styles and Cody. It was, of course, AJ Styles. And that's one of the few matches on the WrestleMania card that I'm actually interested in seeing. But the fact that it's not Cody only makes me wonder more what is going on there. Who knows? But WrestleMania card is beginning to be a little bit clearer. I've heard about potentially Vince McMahon versus Pat McAfee, and no.
No, yes, I've heard that rumor as well this week, that they were going to set up something on McAfee's podcast or radio show, whatever he has.
Which is tomorrow as we record this. So if it already happened by the time this episode comes out, then we prophesized it.
Right, and then we'll have to discuss it next time maybe. But nobody wants to see that. I mean, McMahon is, how old is he now? He's over 75.
Well, you know what? I thought I read somewhere that he's like 74, maybe it's 76, something like that. He's in that neighborhood.
He's in that neighborhood. The last match he had was what, against Bret Hart 10 years ago?
Unless there's a TV match I'm not remembering.
Right. That was a complete abortion of a bout. I mean, that was just miserable. And I don't think, what would make more sense is if do the McMahon Trump deal, have Vince front a wrestler, have McAfee front a wrestler, and then they war, and then Vince can get his head shaved again, whatever.
That would probably make more sense. The way that the card is shaping up this year, it's much more celebrity heavy than they've been in recent years. And I know people are going to mention Bad Bunny. He had a prominent role, yes, but it looks like you're going to have Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. You're going to have The Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios. You're going to have potentially McMahon and McAfee in a match. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. A 2-night event of this. And, to a large degree, I still consider Rousey a celebrity. I mean, she's good she's decent in the ring when she wants to be, but that was pre-pregnancy. Post-pregnancy, I don't think. I wonder if she has the passion for this still.
I don't. From the little bit I've seen so far, I would say kind of no. Or two, when she was around the first time, she was uber protected. She debuted at WrestleMania with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie. Yeah, I mean, that's protected. They wrapped her in bubble wrap, and and she managed to get through because of that. But without that type of, I think, just saying, "Hey, just go do it now," I don't think she's there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll see what happens. But back to our main topic, which is WWE versus AEW, and basically what Leonard and I have done is each of us have taken a promotion. And we had the goal of picking 20 pieces of talent. That could be wrestlers, managers, executives, I suppose, men, women, obviously, tag teams, 20 different entities / talent. And we are going to talk about why we picked those people, why we think that's the best version of the promotion. And you'll have to let us know what you think of our picks. And I selected WWE because I'm more familiar with AEW, and I thought it would be more fun if Leonard selected AEW, because I'm actually very curious to see who he has selected. So we are going to start with Leonard's 20 picks. Leonard, is there anything you want to go over before you read your picks?
Well, I will say I've got 10 men, 6 women, and 4 tag teams. And the women in the tag teams were easy. The guys, I could have went another 5 or 6 picks.
Interesting.
I didn't do any ancillary talent. If I would have, I would have took Jim Ross and Taz as my commentator crew, and I would have took Aubrey Edwards, who we talked about in the past, that I love. I think she's a great
So
referee.
basically, your matches are going to be on TV with no commentary.
Yes.
And no referees.
No referees. Just it's going to be like a street fight scenario. No
unsanctioned street fights every night.
Every night. The way I approached it, and if you approached it different, that's fine, was sort of the idea of Tony Khan comes to me and say, hey, cherry pick 20 talents, I don't care who, and you go off and start your own small company. So this would be the core that you're starting with, and that I would fill in, of course, with indie talent to make a fuller company. But this is the core that I'm allowed to poach from AEW was how I approached this. And to mention, we did set 2 caveats. One was you can't take 2 random guys and put them together to make a tag team.
Right.
And you can't draft a whole stable.
Right.
Because AEW I could have drafted all of AEW by picking like 5 stables.
There's a lot of factions in AEW, and I think that's only going to increase as time goes. But yeah.
So anyway, to get going, we'll do my men first.
Is this ranked at all, or is this just random picks as you thought?
It's kind of random. I would say it's in a vague order because there's people that I knew I wanted. And then there's some where I looked at the AEW roster. And that's another thing we should say is that we looked at the official rosters on their websites.
Right.
To see who they consider to be on their rosters. And that's at the time of this recording. So, for example, Chad's not going to have Cody Rhodes because he's not signed yet. And I don't have Cody Rhodes because he's already left. So not that I don't think I would have took him anyway.
You know what? When Roman Reigns inevitably leaves right before WrestleMania for AEW, then it'll make, some of my picks look silly because that's obviously going to happen, right, Leonard?
Right. I think we all know that. So I'm in a vague order. Like, for example, my men, 2 guys I knew I wanted right off the bat, this will be no surprise to Chad, was CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. Both are very well-known names. They're going to bring eyes to your product, again, with the idea this is a new company. They're experienced veterans that can still go. They have produced great matches and promos since going to AEW. And they seem really energized and revitalized by the experience. Like, they like what they're doing. And you may only get 3 to 5 years out of both of them, if that. But I think that's plenty of time to help establish your company and hopefully build new stars. I think they are. So, because, for example, I didn't take Chris Jericho. Because, 1, he's fat and he's bloated and he's not performing great right now, and 2, I don't think he's going to help you build stars. He's going to try to hold the spot. So Punk and Danielson, I think, are be more interested in wanting to help build your stars. So next 2 I have is, I'm going to adjust my camera a bit because it looks like it got a little foggy there for some reason. I have Hangman Adam Page and MJF, and I kind of considered them together. Because they're more or less homegrown talents. They had a little experience elsewhere, then came to AEW. And I think they're right there in being your main guys, or can be your main guys. MJF as a heel, Page as a face. MJF is such a classic traditional heel. He knows how to work like a heel, cut a promo like a heel, wrestle like a heel. Just, he's everything. And Page, I think he has a little more seasoning left to go, but the matches between him and Danielson, it's Flair versus Sting in 1988. I mean, to me, those matches created Page. I think the idea with Page was he was runner-up in the title tournament to Jericho, and it was like, well, let's hold him let's build him over the next 3 years. He'll be our champion in the future. And then they kind of put him in a holding pattern in the tag team with Omega and going with the Young Bucks. And I don't think that really did him any favors. And now that Omega's gone and they give him the ball and they've given him Danielson and other people, he's showing he can carry it. So, and to mention, I did not take Kenny Omega and I did not take the Young Bucks, probably for obvious reasons that Chad will know. they're not going to help you, I don't think, build your stars of tomorrow. They're going to look out for themselves. And right or wrong, I don't care for them in the ring. Your mileage may vary, and that's fine. I don't particularly care for them. Here's two names I think will surprise you, Chad. Surprise you a lot. And I'm kind of grouping them at twos, it seems like. But I took Wardlow and Will Hobbs. Both these guys have awesome looks and very high ceilings to me. And they're also guys that it feels like AEW could push more and haven't. I don't think they've used them well enough. Wardlow, I would probably keep in the bodyguard role for MJF's bodyguard. Hobbs, I would just have him beat jobbers week in, week out and, continue to build him up. But to me, both these guys have amazing potential. I'm really high on Will Hobbs. In the long-term fantasy booking league that I have, I made a tag team out of Will Hobbs and Odyssey Jones, and they're managed by Slick. And I love that team. So next up, now Chad knows I don't like flippy dudes, but I'm going to take Darby Allin and PAC. So Darby Allin, I think, is coming into his own. I actually don't like him hanging out with Sting. I think that's holding him back. But he has been able to develop a character. He has a very distinct look. And I like kind of what he brings to the table as a character. And again, I'm saying high ceiling a lot. I think he has a high ceiling. PAC is very athletic, but he's also very powerful. Pac. Oh, I keep PAC. See, that shows you how much I watch the project. So Pac, because it was all capital letters, I assumed it was an acronym. Pac is very athletic and very powerful. He's as wide as he is tall. He looks like a Lord of the Rings creature or something. But I like the fact that I think he can go with a guy like Darby Allin, and he can go with a guy like Will Hobbs. So there's a versatility there with him. And then my last two picks, and again, I just kind of said, I'll go with 10 guys. Was really tough to narrow it down to my last two picks, my 8 and 10 guys, or my 9 and 10 guys, I should say. So one, I've got Jay Lethal. Again, another veteran, can still go, very athletic. I think, has been very underrated because he hasn't had that run in the WWE, but great in Ring of Honor, worked for TNA. And then my 10th slot, which may surprise you as well, Chad, is Ricky Starks. I got to know Ricky a little bit when he wrestled in the NWA, and I was watching the NWA. I liked him the moment I saw him. I thought he had a good look, good talent, great energy, great passion. He seemed like he was green, but he knew it, and he wanted to get better. And I think he's a guy on the rise. So those are my 10 guys. And just to mention, I mentioned a few guys I didn't take. If I had one more spot, I would have took Sammy Guevara. I was really debating between Starks and Guevara for my last slot. Miro and Malachi Black, I still think has too much WWE stank on them. Like, I don't think they've kind of come out from under that yet. John Moxley, nothing against him, but I know he's still recovering from rehab.
He's back.
I know he's back. He's listed on the roster. He's back, but he's still – he just got back. So
that's true. Well, so being that you don't watch the product as much, yes. So Moxley is entering a program with Danielson, which should be
good.
I'm actually anxious to see that match, specifically because I want to see what they do without the window or the protectiveness of the WWE agents. Like, I want to see what they do when they kind of can go in there and do their thing on their own. Should be interesting. That storyline is interesting. So I wanted to talk to you about what you talked about with Hangman Page.
Yeah.
And I like him a lot as well. One of the things that, I understand what you're saying about how he got into the tag team with Omega. In the big scheme of things, it made his ascent and his eventual win almost more impactful, because that storyline was kind of stretched over a very long period of time. He was with Omega, they were champs, then they weren't, then they were feuding, and he kind of getting pushed down the card, it felt like, only to kind of rise back up. I mentioned that specifically because I think that's what they're doing with Wardlow. And I think they're doing a real slow burn with Wardlow eventually becoming a mega face and turning on MJF. And I think that that's going to be even farther down the road than fans might realize, simply because I think MJF is going to get the title before Wardlow would turn on him. That's my opinion, but who knows? But yeah, I agree with what you're saying about Wardlow and Hobbs. They're going to be in the Face of the Revolution ladder match coming up at the pay-per-view here. Two big guys that have a lot of potential. They clearly love Wardlow. I mean, he annihilated CM Punk, and in a match a few weeks ago, and CM Punk got the roll-up win as like kind of a fluke. But I mean, the message was sent that this is a guy that they're high on. So I see good things with him.
Yeah, and again, I did read up some, watch some stuff. I am not as nuanced on the project as you, so some of the stuff I might be saying may not be as accurate.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, especially the Page storyline. Again, I'm seeing that from arm's length at a distance, trying to encapsulate all of it together. So I maybe didn't catch the little details that you did watching it.
I'm actually not shocked about you omitting Omega.
Yeah, you knew that was
expected that. I didn't think I knew how you felt about the Young Bucks, if I'm being honest. Now I do. Okay. But that one surprised me, simply because they are who they are. But anyway, as you were.
Yeah, but anyway, the last thing to say here with my guys is I know that AEW has a lot of second-generation talents, which I like because it's a name you can sell. So Hook, Brock Anderson, Brian Pillman Jr., Gun Club, all those guys would be potentials for me. If I had 30 spots, I probably would have found room for some of those guys. Scorpio Sky, that's another guy that I would have took if I had some more room. If there wasn't Punk or Danielson, I would have took Christian, another experienced worker. So there's way more. When I got into it, there were way more males that I was interested in than I initially thought.
Right.
With the women and the tag teams, those were a little clearer for me. So let's do the women first. And here, my top 4 women I knew without looking were Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb, and Mercedes Martinez. Not only to me, the 4 best women that they have, but probably the 4 best women working in wrestling today. They all have distinct looks and personalities from each other. I think they're all great in the ring. They're solid to good on the mic. I think Britt Baker's very good on the mic. The thing with her is when I watched AEW in debut, she was a face. I liked her. She turned heel, and she was awful. She had no idea what she was doing. But I've read that she kind of took it upon herself, and her husband's helped her out, and she's developed into being a great heel. So I like someone who can do it themselves. Get
Selena Deeb?
I was talking about Britt Baker.
Oh, Britt Baker. Okay.
Yeah, Britt Baker. Again, Deeb I'm more familiar with when she was with Punk in WWE. Thunder Rosa we talked about when we did our video on those with Rose or a form of Rose in their name. Martinez is just a tough chick, and you want someone like that around.
Sure.
And so then after those 4, I wanted Ruby Soho, formerly Ruby Riott in WWE. And here's the thing, I forgot she was in AEW until I looked at the roster. And I think that's bad for her. I know she debuted hot, and I saw the clips of that. The crowd was super hot for her. You may be able to tell me more about what they've done with her lately, but I didn't see where they were doing a lot with her. She wasn't getting so much of a push now.
One of the things that I will say about AEW that I don't even want to say worries me, but concerns me is that they will debut people in a really hot way. Now, this hasn't happened with everyone across the board, but they'll debut people in a hot way, and then they maybe don't know what to do after that for a period of time. Ruby Soho debuted pretty hot, having a match with Britt Baker. Then she had a match for the new TBS championship and didn't win that. And since then, I don't think she's even been on TV. I've seen some clips of her at indie stuff. But she hasn't been around lately, unless there's AEW dark, I should say, matches that I'm not seeing. They haven't done a lot with her. I'm not saying that they probably won't, but that has happened a couple times. I know people are worried with Keith Lee about that. I don't know if that's what they're going to do with Keith Lee. I mean, he had a pretty hot match, and he's going to be in the ladder match I mentioned previously as well. But there are cases like Jay Lethal, for example. Now, he didn't debut, and he wasn't really pushed into a big program. He had a match with Sammy Guevara, I believe, and they haven't done jack shit with him since then. So that is the concern with AEW, that they're bringing in these talent and they debut them for a pretty hot rating, and then maybe they don't have long-term plans for them. Who knows? We'll see what happens. This is still a baby of a promotion. Like, there's going to be some bumps in the road. And I don't say that to excuse those mistakes. I just say that to state a fact. I mean, they have a lot of eyes on them and a lot of money to blow. So who knows? Right?
So let me get this straight. 3 of their biggest guys are going to be in a ladder match.
They've talked about that on air. The fact that, like, these huge guys are going to be in the ladder match. And so, I mean, I forget how many are going to be in it. I imagine there are going to be some more, as Leonard would say, flippy dudes to come. But yeah, right now they have like a bunch of powerhouses in there.
It'd be interesting maybe to see how that turns out. And then the last woman I took, and I guarantee you, Chad, there is no way that you would think I would take this woman. It's Jade Cargill.
That doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise you. She's got a low floor and a high ceiling.
Absolutely, I agree.
Amazing look. The white, shocking white hair, like the chiseled features of a model, abs you can grate cheese on, like such a look. I think she's very green in the ring from what I've seen. But with the other 5 women I have, she's either going to get good or die trying.
Yeah, and Jade Cargill is an interesting case because I want to see what they do with the undefeated streak, because previous other promotions have done it and to me have failed at it. Like, they'll have somebody on a hot streak, they'll lose a big match, and then they just die. They just fallen down. Like with WCW, it was a different scenario. They didn't know what the hell to do. I think they realized they killed their golden goose. But like, what they do with this undefeated streak that Jade Cargill is on, to me, is really fascinating. I wonder who it's going to be that defeats her finally, and how they book her after that. I mean, she has the lower championship, so one would assume she'd go for the top one after that. But who knows? I'm not booking. But that's a good pick. I like that pick. All
right, great. So now I have the 4 tag teams, and I took Jurassic Express of Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus. I like big and little tag teams. Luchasaurus has a unique look and character. And don't take this the wrong way, it's almost like the Undertaker, where people kind of just accepted the fact that he's an undead zombie and overlooked it a little bit. And Luchasaurus is like half man and half dinosaur, and they just kind of overlook it. but it's a cool idea. Again, I've said this a lot. High ceiling. I see that with Jungle Boy. I've read things from himself saying that he doesn't like to cut promos. He feels awkward in front of a crowd. I think he's finding there's a difference between play acting as a wrestler like he did as a kid and actually doing it. And my hope is that he can kind of learn and break out of that by working with some of the other tag teams that I want to use. A tag team that I know is not being used by AEW right now, from what I was finding, was SoCal Uncensored, Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, although they are still marked on the roster as being part of the company.
I think that I'm not totally sure about this, but I think Christopher Daniels has just about hung it up. I think he works behind the scenes there.
Okay.
Somewhere. I don't know that for a fact. Frankie Kazarian still pops up from time to time, but he's also in that role of pretty much just there to push other guys a little bit, not
right.
Kind of an enhanced like a glorified jobber almost.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's what I would want them to do, is to help maybe develop talent. And again, like Punk and Danielson, you're not going to get much out long term out of them. With Daniels, it sounds like not much, but maybe he can help you backstage and with training. But I think that they're someone that can, both of them can still work and cut a promo and be helpful. And then the last two teams that I wanted are FTR of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, and Red Dragon, aka the Undisputed Era of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. I think both those teams are very good, solid, traditional tag teams. They work well together. They know how to put a tag match together. Again, you may correct me, but I believe FTR was one of those teams that debuted hot and maybe didn't get the sustained push in the tag division, like a lot of people thought they should get. I don't know a lot what's going on with Red Dragon right now, but again, I'm familiar with their work from NXT. And these are, again, two tag teams that are experienced, but still young enough that they can really go and I think be a foundation of any good tag division.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those are great tag teams. FTR, I think they've done really great stuff with. They had their run, they had their match with the Young Bucks, and like they always are in the title hunt. They had a match with a tag team and they won the AAA Lucha titles. I think they still have them, actually. So they are always in some sort of good program. I will say that. Red Dragon are pretty new. I know they're going to be in the there's going to be a triple threat match for the tag titles at Revolution. And Red Dragon is one of the teams. Jurassic Park are the champs. And the third team, I guess, will be decided on Dynamite tomorrow night as we record this. But yeah, tag team wise, I think AEW is stronger than WWE by like 20 miles. I really truly believe that. They have a real good focus on their tag division, and they seem to, with the rankings as help, they seem to do a good job at balancing the teams and pushing up who needs to get there.
You know, that was one thing I found was neat, is that as I was looking at the roster, it has the win-loss records, and you can kind of get a sense. And I thought that was very interesting. For example, Sting is 7-0.
Yeah, singles, I think. Yeah.
What was it? I said, Brandon Cutler's like 9-50 or something. Like he's got the worst record with the most matches wrestled of anybody. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, you know, that's my 20. Again, the idea of this is a core that's going to get you going. And again, I'm not as familiar with AEW as you are, so I might have glossed over or misconstrued some elements of some of these people. But you know, that's mine. And you know, any questions on or any comments on who I've got here?
Well, I mean, we already talked about some of the top picks, and you know, Sammy Guevara. You know, I want to say that if you watched AEW more, you'd probably pick him. That's just a shot in the park. I don't know.
Like I said, I took Guevara and Starks for my last two, and I went with Starks because I was more familiar with him. So yes, I probably would take Sammy if I knew him a little bit better.
Was Adam Cole on your list?
No.
Okay. So that would be one that would surprise me.
Yes, because, and again, I have been watching it, but I've read things, I've heard things, and Cole seems, and again, I could be wrong about this, but he seems to be going almost an opposite Jericho. He doesn't seem to care as much, and instead of getting fat, he has seemingly lost a lot of weight and can walk through a harp now.
There's been a lot of talk about his physique for whatever reason online. I don't get it, but
again, that's what I'm seeing. I mean, I had liked Cole elsewhere, but again, what I was hearing was he, you know, and some people maybe is not going to take to the AEW lifestyle as everyone else. I think that's one thing that you see online is that some people consider, oh, you go to AEW and that's it. Like that, you're going to be the best ever, and it's going to be the best time for you. It's the best place for you on earth. That's not going to work for everybody. That's
not a narrative that should be permeating at all. I don't think.
Yeah, not everyone is going to go to AEW and be happy there. Some people might be better in WWE. Some people might be better going to Japan or TNA even, or something like that. I know at the time of this recording, Cesaro got released, hasn't signed anywhere. And again, stuff I'm hearing is that either he's not interested in going AEW, or people around him are saying, maybe you don't want to do that. And he might be someone that might just do better working the indie circuit, or maybe going to Japan for a little bit. Too bad Ring of Honor's not around, or I guarantee he would have went there. But yeah, I mean, I think he's someone that I think Cesaro would get lost in AEW if he would go there right now.
I think that there's a risk of that happening if he were to go there. I think it's a 50-50 shot, honestly, for him to go there. If he were to go, I think there's a 50% chance to me that they would see the potential that WWE missed in him and immediately push him to the moon. And then there's a 50% chance that he might get lost in the shuffle with guys that are a little bit younger than him and maybe have some more mileage. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. It's going to be interesting to see. It is disappointing that Vince never pulled the trigger there, because I do think that was a talent that they severely missed out on in terms of the potential that he had. I really do. But we'll see where he lands, if indeed he lands anywhere. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are good picks. I mean, I like your roster overall. I mean, you picked the female talent that I probably would have picked. Give or take maybe one, but I don't know as much about Mercedes Martinez other than what I've seen. I mean, but yeah, she's just a tough chick, which is what you said. So,
yeah.
So, but no, I like your roster. I think it's good. I obviously would have put Omega and the Young Bucks on there.
Of course.
I won't hide that fact, but I understand your reasoning. So that means then we're going to jump to my list, which is the WWE roster.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying, Leonard, that the guys were harder for you. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. I kind of knew the women I wanted and the tag teams I wanted, and glancing over the roster, I went, okay, I got who I want. The guys, like I said, I knew the first 5 or so, and then after that, it was really a lot of talent for me to kind of sift through and figure out who fits where for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had the opposite problem. I had more problems selecting the women in WWE than I did the guys. The guys, most of them fell into place. But the women, it was like I had some picks right away, and then after that, I didn't know how many I wanted to pick. So let me get started here. I'll go in twos like you did, okay, since you set the pattern there early on. My first 2 picks would be Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Okay. I admit I'm tired of that feud, but Brock Lesnar is unlike anybody in the business today. There is nobody like him, whether you like that or you don't. So he would definitely be my first pick. Roman Reigns has found his footing as a heel, and I don't know that I like the idea of them going for like a Bruno type run. But that aside, he's really proven himself character-wise. I still think he's basically the same in the ring. And he's fine in the ring, but Roman Reigns is a star. You can't deny that. Next, I would pick AJ Styles and Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker is currently the NXT champ, and I think that he has such potential. I really, really do. If it were my company, I'd change his name. I think that he is a future star if they do good things with him. The danger in the past has always been people are stars on NXT and then they don't know what to do with them on the main roster because they try to change their presentation too much. So who knows? Triple H was ousted from his NXT duties,
Yeah.
Apparently, from what I understand, is Bruce Pritchard and Vince doing things there. So maybe they'll change that approach. Maybe that was part of the problem. I don't know. But Braun Breaker, I think, is a star.
And I agree with you. Why isn't he just Rex Steiner, like his name? Because
that sounds just as badass as Braun Breaker to me.
Yeah, and like that accentuates that he's a Steiner. Like you want people to know he's a Steiner. Like it blew my mind when Kurt Axel / Michael McGillicuddy debuted. And the announcers for the entire time was like, that's Mr. Perfect's kid. That's Kurt Hennig's kid. That's Kurt Hennig. Hey, that dude, that's Kurt Hennig's kid. Right. Well, then why isn't his name Hennig? Why isn't he Joe Hennig?
Right.
And you didn't even explain why his name's McGillicuddy for some reason.
I will say that as far as I know, now I don't watch NXT every week, but the footage I've seen, I don't know how many times they've mentioned the fact that Rick Steiner is his father. However, as I speak on this, Rick Steiner was at ringside when he won the NXT title. So
right, which I thought was, which I knew, and again, I thought it's a known commodity. So
So anyway, my next two are teams, and it would be the Usos and RK Bro.
Okay.
Now, the good thing about having RK Bro as your tag team is that they can also be single stars.
Definitely.
The Usos.
Just to mention to you, if I would have had WWE, and you probably would disagree with this, Randy Orton would have been one of my top picks because he would have filled that veteran slot. So the fact that he is an established tag team, which fits our rules in RK Bro, I think you're getting two great picks there because they can be a tag team and they can be singles.
Absolutely. And Matt Riddle, I think that he should have won the Rumble this year. I think that would have made the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like to look at my favorite Rumbles. Most of them are the ones where they are pushing a talent that needs to get to that next level. So I think he has a lot of potential as well. Randy Orton, as Leonard just said, is the veteran and who is really not lost much. If you listen to any of the podcasts out there, they sing his praises all the time, and rightfully so. He's still great character, great on the mic, and great in the ring. He's in great shape for his age. So they're a good team. I like them together, and I think that the Usos are one of the best teams there, and I think that they could be even better if they weren't slightly held back with WWE standards of what they can do in the ring. Like, to me, one of the dream matches that we'll probably never see would be the Young Bucks and the Usos. I think that match could just be off the wall insane. But anywho, my next two entries, one is a tag team, one isn't. Trent Seven and Tyler Bate are Mustache Mountain. I don't know if they still are, but who cares? Mustache Mountain. The fact that they aren't a main roster tag team is a crime to me. These guys are entertaining. Now, yes, they bring that UK style that not all American wrestling fans are used to seeing, but they're superb in the ring. And Tyler Bate was the first NXT UK champion, if memory serves. And like Mustache Mountain's a great tag team. I truly believe that the fact that they don't have t-shirts and stuff on the main roster is, to me, just mind-boggling. My number 8 would be Drew McIntyre. I think that Drew McIntyre has come a long way. He's had a really kind of up and down journey. But he's really great now. And I don't know that I'm looking forward to the Drew McIntyre Baron Corbin match. I think that could just be a match on television. But they seem to be slow building that one for WrestleMania for whatever reason. But I like Drew McIntyre a lot, and I think that he has proven himself to be good in the ring, and he's kind of dialed that back a little bit, but he could still be really great in the ring when he wants to be. Number 9, number 10, Gunther, Walter, whatever his name is, he's got to be here. If you have some of the big guys I mentioned earlier, like Braun Breaker and Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, Walter is a force of nature. He's not chiseled out of granite, but he proves himself whenever he gets in that ring. And I personally think it would be great to see him have some matches with people like Reigns and Lesnar. I think that it would be interesting to see those styles either mesh or clash. But him definitely, and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is consistently very good. He reinvents himself whenever it's needed, and he's still really great on the mic. And I don't think that's going to change. I see him in a Randy Orton type arc. I think that he is going to stay consistent unless something happens that we're unaware of. After that are picks that I amended as Leonard was talking about tag teams. And so these guys were tough to leave out at first, so I did put them on there. And that would be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I would keep them far apart because I think they've wrestled more than any two people on the planet Earth. But I think that Kevin Owens is really great on the mic. Sami Zayn is as well. These two guys are gold, in my opinion. Whether you have them together or opposing each other or in separate storylines, one of the best Raw moments of the past 10 years was the Festival of Friendship with Chris Jericho. That was, incredible. Kevin Owens is great, and I think needs to get a run with the title at some point. Mm-hmm. And Sami Zayn is the Intercontinental Champion right now. So after that, 13-14, Bobby Lashley, and another amendment, Pete Dunne. Bobby Lashley is currently injured, but he has really come a long way with MVP as his manager. Now, obviously, I didn't select MVP for my list here, but Bobby Lashley's weakness has always been the mic, and I don't think that's going to change, but I like him with MVP, and he's proven himself to be a legitimate main event star in WWE with MVP as his mouthpiece. I hope that he gets back to full health soon. Pete Dunne is awesome. He is so great in the ring. He is such and I mean this as a compliment, an ugly MFer. Like, he is like a heel through and through. And if you put him with somebody like Heyman, I really think that could be gold. I really do. Heyman should have a stable at some point. That's my, because I don't really view him as having a stable of the Usos and Roman Reigns. That's not
I mean, the Dangerous Alliance is one of the most awesome heel stables of all time.
Right.
Heyman was the centerpiece of that. Doing something like that again. I'm trying to think. Last time the WWE had a stable that wasn't like, say, a trio of guys. It was 4, 5, or 6 people.
Right.
That's been a while. I would love to see it, and I think you could take, say, SmackDown and build SmackDown every week around the new Dangerous Alliance and whoever they were fighting, per se.
It's weird that, like, Vince kind of gets in those moods, right? Like, for a while he'll get into moods where everybody's in a stable or a faction, and then you just won't have anybody in any of them. But now we're going to move on to the women. As Leonard said, Leonard and I kind of echo each other here. I had 4 picks right off the bat, and that would be Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. These women are not spring chickens anymore necessarily, but you know what? If those were the only 4 women I selected, you could have those 4 feud with each other for a long time, changing opponents, and nobody would have any problem with it. Charlotte Flair is the best female talent in the world right now, unless you look into Stardom in Japan. But she's great, and Becky Lynch, character-wise, is at the top of her game. Sasha Banks and Bayley are both excellent as well. They are dubbed the 4 horsewomen for a reason, right?
Right.
And then my last 2 picks would be women as well. On the younger side, Rhea Ripley, and a pick that I guarantee Leonard didn't expect. I don't know if you even know who this is. You probably do. Dakota Kai.
Yes, I'm aware of Dakota Kai. Do I know a lot about her? No.
She is great as a face and great as a heel. I watched her ever since she was introduced in the female tournament. I think at one point it was going to be called the Moolah tournament. Maybe it was the Mae Young Classic. I think whatever it was.
It was going to be the Moolah. It was going to be Moolah was going to be the Battle Royal they were going to do at WrestleMania.
Yes.
For the women, like the Andre.
The Mae Young Classic.
Classic, I think, was always the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah. And that's where I first was introduced to Dakota Kai. She was a ultra super baby face at that point, but now she's pretty much a heel, and I like her a lot, and I think that she could really add to the main roster. She's young. She can do pretty much anything in the ring. She can play that chicken shit heel really, really well, or the baby face that's climbing the ladder. So I really think that they could do a lot with her. So I tried to be a little bit all over the place with my picks. I wanted to dip into NXT and NXT UK a little bit, and that's what I came up with. Is there anybody that you are surprised I didn't pick?
Four names kind of came to my mind immediately. I would have to look at the roster in detail to come up with others. But women-wise, what about Bianca Belair and Shayna Baszler?
I like Bianca Belair. If I were picking 30 or 40 picks, she would probably be there. I don't nearly think that she's as spectacular as WWE clearly does. I think she's good. There's just other people that I would pick before that. That's really as honest as I could be.
Sure.
There. Shayna Baszler, I like a lot. I really do. And again, that would be another pick. But, when I was looking at some of the women that I had to have there, you're limited to 20 picks. Yeah. So you had to narrow it down. And I just am not as big of a fan of what WWE has done with her lately. I think that they're letting her slip through their fingers a little bit. And I really think that she could still, she was like dominant in NXT. And I feel like they just, for whatever reason, they don't want to just continue that momentum. But yeah, she's good as well.
So two guys I thought of. One was Ilya Dragunov, if I'm saying his name correctly.
That's a good one. That's a good one I didn't consider, I'll be honest.
And then, and I could probably guess why you didn't want him, but I would have taken Omos.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I know why you wouldn't.
Well,
to me, he's big. He has potential. You can sell him. When we talked about the Royal Rumble, I mentioned how, my wife woke up on the couch and went, who the hell is that?
Right.
And she saw him. So there's potential there with him.
There is. And, well, we were talking earlier about Cesaro going to AEW being a 50-50 chance. I think a similar 50-50 chance faces Omos, and that is he could go the route of Big Show and be in major programs and really come along really well, or he could be going the route of Giant Gonzalez or the Great Khali. And I don't know. I view him, and the reason I didn't pick him and wouldn't consider it is simply because I look at that as another Vince pick of, boy, this guy's really big and he's got all eyes, but then what? What are they going to do with him? Are they going to have him, they have him destroy AJ Styles, but AJ Styles is the one that's going into a major WrestleMania match.
Right.
Not Omos, as far as I'm aware. What's he going to be in? The Andre the Giant Battle Royal?
And probably win it.
Who gives a flying F about that at this point?
Yeah.
No one.
Well, one more name for you. Finn Balor.
That's a good one. That's a good one I should have considered, and I didn't. Other picks that were on my list, or not on my list, that I looked at and just didn't want, John Cena. Technically, I could have picked him.
Technically. Yeah, I guess.
He's in Hollywood at this point. Kofi Kingston was one that I looked at a few times, but I was like, he's probably past his prime at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Add differently than some of the other guys, like a Sami Zayn. That's why I picked Sami Zayn instead, because I think he has more to offer for longer, I would say. But yeah, WWE has such a huge roster. There's other guys I would have picked too if I had other picks. Tommaso Ciampa is one.
Oh,
he's on the main roster now, which is great. Yeah. I hope that they do something with him. I really do. He's had a lot of neck injuries over the years. I don't know how much time he has left, but originally, Leonard, I had my last two picks were ancillary talent, as just they could be commentators and or referees. And I had Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon as my commentators.
That would be an awesome commentary team. I think they did work together maybe one time as a gimmick, but I'd have to find that out. Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, well, they could be managers. They could be, I
Work
suppose
your backstage, be your
referees.
bookers.
I don't know if they would ref. We saw Vince ref a few times over the years. I don't know.
I think he has. Yes.
But yeah, who would your commentators be?
My commentators would have been, if I would have picked them, I would have used Jim Ross and Taz.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm surprised. That surprised me more than any other pick on your list, simply because you're the same person that said you thought Jim Ross should retire.
I think Jim Ross should retire, but he's better than everyone else they got.
I love Excalibur.
I do like Excalibur. The thing with Excalibur actually reminds me a lot of Mike Tenay, in that he knows every single move and can tell you where the move comes from, and he can tell you all about the lucha guys, like down to who their grandma is, and knows all that stuff. And he's very good in that way. To me, Taz, I think, is better at telling a story, and he's more old school. So that's what I want. And again, with Jim Ross, even though I do think he should retire, I think with AEW, I think he thinks the product is BS. I don't think he likes the product.
I think that you're mostly correct. Because, and I know that you're partially correct, because I listen to Jim Ross's podcast.
Well, there you go.
And I hear him talk about certain moves that it's not limited to AEW, by the way, but he complains about certain things that AEW does a lot, that WWE does a lot, like the whole doing the top rope spot into a group of people that are just standing there watching. I don't like that either, to be fair. Yeah. But yeah, he complains a lot about that stuff, and yeah, I do. I like their commentary team, actually, as it is, like with Tony Schiavone and Excalibur. I think they do well, but I also like the fact that they change it up on Rampage, and you have Taz and Chris Jericho there as well, because I do think that Taz is severely underrated on the commentary team. And he has a stable as well, which is pretty cool. So
yes, yeah. If we were drafting stables, I totally would have took where they called the Taz.
Team
the
Taz.
what?
Team
Taz. I would have totally taken Team Taz if we were doing stables.
Let us know what you thought of our lists. To cap this off, we're going to have 3 matches that Leonard and I pick talent at random. We can pick whoever we want. We're going to have an opening match, a tag team title match, and a world title match. So only 3 matches. This isn't necessarily a Unstable Stables or a Fever Dream.
No.
We're just kind of having fun at this point. So, Leonard, I will let you pick the first opening talent.
Okay. So as an opener, I'm trying to think, you know what? I would be very interested in seeing, I think Jay Lethal work with someone, because he's not been in the WWE, but he's a veteran talent and can go. I'd be interested to see who you would like to see Jay Lethal wrestle.
You know what? There's so many people I would actually like to see him wrestle. And as you were talking about him, I was trying to think of who he might have already wrestled and who he might not have already wrestled. But
I think he's wrestled Styles. That would make sense.
See, that's probably, you know what? This match probably has happened, but I would love to see, if it's an opening match, him and Seth Rollins, I think, could put on a barn burner.
Yeah.
If
it happened really early in Seth's career, I would guess.
Right. And by the way, we don't need to pick winners here, because that wouldn't make any sense.
No. We're just saying who we might like to see.
Exactly.
Each other. Yeah.
Potential dream matches, right?
Potential dream matches, yeah.
All right. So our next match would be a match for the tag team titles. And as much as I would love to go with Mustache Mountain here, I would have to pick the Usos. So
Usos. Of all my guys, I kind of want to go with Jurassic Express. That's a heck of a I think a counter to them because I think you could get some great stuff going between Jungle Boy and the Usos. But then when Luchasaurus comes in, the Usos are gonna sell for him and bounce like Super Balls, and I think that's an interesting dynamic because Usos and FTR, I think we know what we're going to get. Usos and Red Dragon, I think we know what we're going to get. Them and SoCal Uncensored, fantastic match. But the one that would intrigue me the most is Jurassic Express.
That would be an interesting match, a good one, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? As we're talking here, Leonard, let's just add a female match. So
okay,
I'll let you pick first here. Who's one female that you pick?
Well, it's interesting because part of me would want to give you Britt Baker and part of me would want to give you Thunder Rosa. But I think Britt Baker is more of the face of the women's division right now. She's the champ, but I also think she's the face. So I'm going to give you Britt Baker.
Britt Baker. I like that. And the natural matchup there to me would be Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
They are the two best, I would say, right now. Becky Lynch is in that conversation as well. But yeah, that's a dream match that I don't want to say we will never see it because Andrade is in AEW. And
yes.
Andrade and Charlotte Flair, as far as I am aware, are still in a relationship. So I think that possibility has more potential than we might think.
And just because I mentioned Thunder Rosa, I will say, looking at the rest of your ladies, I think her and Sasha Banks would be good.
Oh God, yeah, that would be crazy. And I really think that, if Sasha Banks being the heel there would be terrific. Mm-hmm. So that leaves us with our world title match, and I legit have no idea who I would pick here, Leonard. But you know what? I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna pick Walter.
Oh man, see, and that's the thing. Like, I would love to see Walter versus Punk or Danielson to see what they could do with him. But I think the money match at this point might be Walter and Adam Page. I'm interested to see what Page would do against a guy like that.
That would be interesting. As you mentioned, though, Bryan Danielson, I think that he would have more chemistry with somebody like Bryan Danielson.
Yes, I think of those three names I've mentioned, I think Danielson versus Walters, your main event of WrestleMania.
Because think about the fact that those guys incorporate kicks and slaps into their repertoire all the time. Oh my goodness! Like the match that those two guys could have would be off the page. But yeah, there's so many cool matches that could happen. A lot of them probably will not happen. But you know what? We like to have fun here. So let us know who you would pick. Was it a crime that I left off, Montez Ford? I think I considered him. There might be some people you think I should have picked or that Leonard should have picked.
Yeah. I told Chad.
I love how you mentioned Chris Jericho, though. Like, I knew you weren't going to pick Chris Jericho. Getting blown up walking across the room, Chris Jericho.
Yes. I texted this to Chad when I first took a look at the AEW roster. I said half the roster was, who the hell is this guy? And the other half was, that guy is still alive.
Right. All right. Well, like I said, let us know what you think in the comments. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify if you'd rather listen to us. Please make sure to check our past library of episodes. I think we are in the 75 episode range.
Oh, gotta do something big for the 100. We gotta think of something big for the 100.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll finally track down some of our guests that we've reached out to, or not, or we might just end up talking to their family members who aren't going to help us at all. So, in any event, for Leonard, my name is Chad. We will see you next week, and Alexa will see you out.